Wrangler road to the championship makes it to the Sweet 16. We got games all over the state at the biggest venues, from AT&T Stadium to the Cotton Bowl, and weather playing havoc as only the strong survive. The #1 Allen Eagles are trying to become the first repeat 5A champ in 5 years. Defending state champ Cameron Yo may have stubbed a toe in the regular season, but it's yeoman's work in the real season. Scoreboard Live kicks off now. Welcome into the playoff edition of Scoreboard Live, starring the Guru, Greg Way. I'm Rick Renner. Great. He just flew in, believe it or not. All those delays and crazy weather going on. We've already seen 2 state champions go down, Throckmorton and By District, and now Monday, the Monday Moguls in double overtime to Ira Ann in the area round. Crazy weekend of weather, where in some parts they've moved games up to get out of the way of the weather, and they got the cold front anyway.
Yeah, it was no matter what they did. If they moved early, it was late. If they moved late, they got hit by the weather. It has caused several postponements, some to Saturday. Monday comes into play, and I'm not talking about the Moguls. I'm talking about the day on the calendar is coming into play as well, and it could wreak havoc with the 3rd round of the playoffs. More on that a little later on.
We start in the DF Dub, where Prince now plays with Elvis in baseball, and Southlake Carroll is still king, winning 5 titles since 2002, a state record 8 championships overall, and since the season opening loss to #1 Allen, the Dungeons and Dragons have reeled off 10 straight in convincing fashion, outscoring people 5-1. Carroll faces Midland Lee tonight before possibly having matchups with Trinity and DeSoto before the state semifinals. To Saginaw, Southlake has been rolling people, and that would continue tonight. In the first quarter, Southlake's A.J. Ezzard takes the handoff. He spins into the end zone, and it's go green. 7-0. Then, after recovering a Lee fumble, it's Ezzard again taking the handoff here. He'll go 10 yards for the touchdown, and the lead is now 14-0. Next Lee possession. They get fancy with the double pass trick play, but Brady Roper's pass is intercepted here by my man Brett, and he will take it there. 2 straight Lee possessions result in turnovers. Then, after Carroll gets another INT, Ryan Agnew, and that long line of great quarterbacks there to Luke Timian. That made it 24-0. Then in the second, here it is again. Joe Heineman tosses the ball to Steven Bergmark, and he would get into the end zone. Southlake Carroll rolls in this one, 51-7. Another easy win for the Dragons, as they have now won 11 in a row. In the Division I of Class 5A, it almost seems unfair if you're in Region 1 for Southlake. You got to deal with Trinity, DeSoto, or Coppell to get into the Final Four. A lot of nationally ranked teams were in your way.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. Probably from top to bottom, Region 1 may be the most difficult to navigate in 5A Division 1. You just named off all of those powerhouses, Rico. When you look at it, obviously Carroll, Trinity, DeSoto, just to begin with, and that's just in Region 1 having to navigate through. Then you deal with Region 2 and on down the line, where you got Allen and some of the other powerhouses around the state. It's going to be a difficult top half of the bracket. No matter how good you are, there are other very good teams ready to take you out.
Claude Mathis in our studios in our early coverage earlier this year, he just said, it's not fair. It just isn't fair. In San Antonio, the 2 best Alamo City teams left in Cibolo Steel and Reagan going at it tonight. First play of scrimmage. Oh, wow. That's Justin Stockton. This kid's going to Texas Tech. He averages like almost 15 yards a carry. He'll go 75 yards to the house here. And Cibolo Steel is rolling. A staggering 13 yards per carry this year. And then Steel would pooch the kick on the kickoff, and it's recovered. And they would end up scoring again. And who else? It's Stockton. 2 carries, 2 touchdowns early on. He had 5 touchdowns in the game. Quarterback Ty Summers, he's a good one. He had 3,500 total yards on the year. So Steele makes it 11 in a row. They advance to the regional round, and they'll play Edinburgh. The North Cougars, they're ready to rock. Lurking in the quarterfinals, San Antonio Johnson, who took out Brandeis tonight, and Smithson Valley and By District. Lady Bird is the Cinderella and could meet Steele in 2 weeks.
Around Around the greater Austin area, of course, all the talk is about 4A Division II. Can Cedar Park repeat? Can they make it back-to-back? Next in the way for the T-Wolves is Kerrville-Tivy. Tivy, of course, has had that explosive offense for years. Yes, going back to Johnny Manziel and even prior to that, but Cedar Park has its own explosivity. And, of course, Nate Grimm leads the way there. He picks up the first down on a 3rd and 4, plus plenty more. He's a one-man wolf pack. Grimm, his 15th rushing touchdown of the season, 7-0 Cedar Park. Second quarter, T-Wolves driving, and it's Grimm. This time looking to throw. Colt Owen in the flat. Big hit right there by Billy Field, but Owen would be okay. Then it's Logan and Boren would cap the drive as he takes it over 3-yard touchdown. T-Wolves on top by a 14-0 count. They're still rolling. Joe Willis Ball Club wins it 43-21, and it's on to the Sweet 16 for Cedar Park. We'll take on the winner of the Fighting Sand Crabs of Port Lavaca Calhoun and the Hornets of Corpus Christi Flower Bluff. Now that is in 4A D1. What about in 5A D2? Westlake, of course, had been on that big ride and taken on A&M and Consolidated. Remember, the Shats had beaten the Tigers the last 2 times, including the playoffs last year. But the Tigers have something to say about this early on. Brandon Jackson, 9-yard touchdown run. Westlake trying to fight back, down 23 into the 3rd quarter. The pass from Jordan Seaver to Zach Dansby. It's 20-10. But it only takes A&M Consolidated 4 plays to turn it around. Kobe Miller, the screen to Derek Dick, and he does the rest. 66 yards. And the Tigers win it 41-16. A&M Consolidated going on to take on the winner of McKinney Boyd and Longview as those two will meet tomorrow.
Wow, so Westlake wasting the win over undefeated Hendrickson last week against Samaje Perine and those guys.
Knocked them out, but A&M Consolidated ready to turn the tables after losing the heartbreaker to them in the regular season and after losing to them in the second round of the playoffs a year ago.
Well, weather played havoc on all the games tonight, and we have a special guest who joins us, Dr. Mark Cousins, the UIL athletic director. And just your thoughts, he joins us on the phone now, of how big of a mess this was tonight with all the postponements and cancellations and wondering when they're going to play next.
Well, it's something that it was something that was an issue all the way from the Panhandle down to the Valley. So it looks like a lot of the games did get in tonight, which we're very excited about. Hopefully the weather will calm down a little bit tomorrow and we can get the rest of them in. But certainly if some of them has to extend past the weekend, it's really going to have an impact on the following week of the playoffs.
Mark, I think a question a lot of folks are wondering about, obviously, if games are pushed back to Monday, and it's already happened a little bit. What happens if in the Panhandle, because you and I were talking about it earlier, it's going to be difficult to get those games in even on Monday. Is there a what-if plan if things happen with the weather on Monday and things, say, even get pushed beyond that?
Yeah, certainly that's something we're going to have to look at if we get there. The biggest issue we've got is that we've got the 5-day rule minimum between football games. So any game that's played on Monday, they already have to push their next round game to Saturday. So if the 2 games right now I think that are scheduled for Monday aren't able to be played on Monday, we're certainly going to have to look at some possible changes and some possible situations to address what we do if those games aren't able to be played on Monday.
Well, that was the follow-up I had, Mark. Would the UIL consider a waiver to push it beyond Saturday to the next Monday if you had to? I know you don't want to get in a habit and on a roll of having to ask other teams to push back, push back, push back. How do you best look at it if it comes down to either of those 2 games having to be moved beyond Monday into Tuesday?
Well, I think we've got a couple of options. Number one, we could look at a waiver to extend the deadline for that next round of the playoffs. The other thing we could do is have a discussion about whether or not to allow them to play on 4 days instead of 5 between games. And so that's something that hopefully we don't have to cross that bridge, but we've already had some conversations about that, and we'll be having more conversations over the weekend once we see how many games are able to be played tomorrow, if this is just an issue with those 2 games right now that we're aware of, and if we have more games pushed to Monday, then obviously it's going to become a bigger conversation.
Thanks, Mark, for the knowledge. That's Dr. Mark Cousins of the UIL. And, you know, I know the big thing there with those guys, and they do such a good job with this. It's safety and protecting the kids and making sure that you're playing in a situation where you can have a fair football game.
No doubt about it. Those guys are incredible. Everything they've gone through. They've just come from volleyball. I know Dr. Cousins was driving back from Garland from the Caldwell Center from the state volleyball tournament. So they're having to go back to that. And, of course, dealing with a state tournament and then state playoff games at the area round getting pushed back. 2 games right now for Monday. Cross your fingers and hope the weather doesn't wreak havoc with games that have already been pushed to tomorrow or games that were originally scheduled for tomorrow.
Yeah, I like that 5-day rule. That kind of gives you a chance to prepare for that next round if you advance. Let's take a break. We're just getting the party started. We got plenty of highlights of other area round games. We'll hit H-Town, where the best team in South Texas was in action, and later on back up to Big D when we come back.
High School Scoreboard Live is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Enjoy great savings during the Black Friday event. Ford is the best in Texas. By Dairy Queen for the best tasting treats, eats, and drinks in Texas. DQ just tastes better. And by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The finalists for the First Down Club Player of the Year Awards are chosen this week. Here's a look at the offense. The winner will be announced on December 5th at the Fort Worth Hilton. Proceeds go to LaDainian Tomlinson's Touching Lives Foundation. The second annual event will be the night to honor and celebrate high school football in Northwest Texas and raise funds for future scholarships. Sponsorship opportunities and tickets remain for the December 5th banquet. It's a great night, so get out and get yourself a ticket, and you can do so at Tomlinson'sTouchingLives.com.
On to the greater Houston area we go. 5A, D2, Region 3, Katy. Do you need to say anything else? Well, it was a packed house at Rhodes Stadium. 43 degrees at kickoff, 34 wind chill. No problem there. Rodney Anderson off to the races. 42-yard touchdown run. Game was tied at 7 after the early 7-0 lead for Cy Woods in the second quarter. It's 10-7 Katy. Rodney Anderson on the punt return. Good blocks. 61 yards for the touchdown. That's his 23rd score of the year. It was 17-7 Cats at the half. Then Katy strikes again out in the second half. There's Rodney Anderson again. Future Texas A&M Aggie. 71 yards for another touchdown. He had over 200 yards on the ground. It was 24-7 at that point. Katy looking every bit the part there at number 2. They win 51-7. And as a result, they move on to the Sweet 16. In the regional round, they take on the winner of Port Arthur Memorial and Fort Bend Elkins.
In Class 5A Division I Region 2, the Pearland Oilers move on, taking out Fort Bend Austin. How about the Fort Bend ISD, by the way? That they won 10-plus playoff games in 2 years. They needed a decade to do that previously. They are coming on, but the Bulldogs go down in this one. Pearland will move on to the regionals and will face the A-Leaf Taylor Houston Lamar winner. Some heavyweights in that bracket. And speaking of heavyweights, with that, Scout.com's Ahmad Vital joins us on the phone now. Ahmad, you are at that Pearland game. Do they have enough to beat out maybe a state finalist and mega talent at Houston Lamar if they get there?
That could be one of the games for the ages, because I can tell you what, both of these teams come with a lot of firepower. And what I saw tonight out of Pearland is that defense is just as good as advertised. Oklahoma State commit Justin Phillips at linebacker is the absolute real deal. He has tremendously stepped his game up. On top of being able to have run support, he's also good in the passing game as well. But you look on the offensive side of the ball as well. Jacoby Butler may be one of the best kept secrets at running back in the city of Houston. 214 yards tonight, 3 touchdowns. When he got his hands on the ball, Austin just was not able to take him down with one guy. He was breaking tackles left and right. Kid's only 160 pounds, but I tell you what, he packs a punch, and he brings everything he has to every time he touches the football. I tell you what, Pearland was very impressive tonight, and even within that, I'm sure there's some things they can clean up in the game, which they're going to have to come with that much or even more facing off if it was to be Lamar to come up to be in the next round.
Ahmad, you're keeping up with everything going on in the greater Houston area. Tell everybody a little bit about that crazy finish and the great game that took on Manville and Fort Bend Bush tonight.
You know, it's interesting. One of my colleagues called me tonight. I don't get a ton of calls late night when it comes to games, but guy's been covering the area for over 30 years, and he said that this may have been the craziest game he's ever seen. Derek King from Manville accounted for all 7 touchdowns that they had tonight. He had 196 throwing, 298 on the ground. That is completely unheard of. But he was able to put all that together, scored the final touchdown in the last 6 seconds of this game. And it's crazy because Ronald Monroe, the Texas State commitment on the other side for Bush, quarterback, he had 495 yards and 5 touchdowns, and that team is going home. That's almost tragic to even think that somebody can put up that type of performance and end up not coming away with a win.
We're going to try to get highlights of that one later in the show. Thanks, Ahmad. Check him out at scout.com. He's a #1 bookseller, too, not like Craig, who has 1 million books in his cellar. Break time on Scoreboard Live. Coming up next, some huge games from the Metroplex, including the #1 team in Class 5A. Also, the upset-minded Lincoln Tigers, the smallest 4A team in the state, looking to shock the state and the world in Jerry World. Back in a moment on High School Scoreboard Live.
The championship brought to you in part by Cavender's.
High School Scoreboard Live is brought to you by the new Wrangler Premium Performance Advanced Comfort Jeans, available at Cavender's and cavenders.com.
The Wrangler Road to the Championship starts here and only here on Fox Sports Southwest. We will be here every step of the way until the new champions are crowned, and we will broadcast 6-man all the way up to the Class 5A state championship games at AT&T Cowboys Stadium for your viewing pleasure. It's the Wrangler Road to the Championship. In the Cotton Bowl, #1 Allen Eagles trying to become the first 5A back-to-back state champ since Katie did it 5 years ago. All over Mesquite Horn tonight. Kyler Murray, fireworks with this guy. They say he's hurt, but I don't think so. Hitting Jalen Guyton for the 73-yard strike. Allen on top 7-0, just like that. And if you give Kyler Murray time, he will attack. Through the air again to Jalen. This one a 34-yard hook up for a touchdown. And this just in. Kyler Murray, he's pretty good at football. Using his feet here, but buying some time. It's slippery out there in the Cotton Bowl to Grant Finney, and he gets in. Allen cruises 42-14. Murray, 225 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. The Allen defense intercepted Destree White 3 times. Allen moves on to Region 2 to play the winner of the Woodlands and Round Rock, a possible Skyline and Allen matchup in the quarterfinals. How about that? Let's bring in the czar of the DF Dub, Corbett Smith of the Dallas Morning News. Corbett, Highland Park is an interesting story. Last year, they got beat in the first round by Frisco. This is the first time they went out that early in a decade. Then they get waxed by Aledo in the season opener. But the Scots have quietly rattled off 11 straight wins, and Brooks Bergen is on fire, my man, on fire.
He's really figured things out, and I think Coach Randy Allen, he said that Aledo team was probably as talented a team as they've ever played against at Highland Park, which I think says a lot about Aledo. Highland Park, though, they've kind of, put things together. They played in a very difficult district, and ended up winning games against Mesquite Poteet and West Mesquite. Certainly talented teams. And yeah, Brooks Bergen is the key. They did not have a passing attack for the last couple of years. He is certainly a guy who's a fantastic dual threat at throwing and rushing, and that really makes the difference, all the difference for Highland Park.
Corbett, we just had a live look at AT&T Stadium a moment ago as Frisco was running out the clock to defeat Lincoln tonight, 24-21. Now, of course, Highland Park D1, Frisco in D2. Next up, however, Ennis, and they looked really, really good tonight. What about Frisco's chances moving on?
I think that Ennis is the prohibitive favorite. Ennis and Mesquite Poteet in that regional bracket certainly are the top 2 teams. Frisco, though, you've got to give Vance Gibson a lot of credit. You're talking about a long history of Frisco ISD. This is the first time any Frisco school has made it 3 rounds deep in the playoffs ever. Centennial could have done it last night, Thursday night, but they got waxed by a very good South Oak Cliff team. South Oak Cliff becomes the first DISD team to get to the 3rd round since 2008 when Carter did it. So a lot of trends here, but I don't necessarily like the Raccoons' chances when you end up having to face a team like Ennis that has so many different options there. They run a very similar type offense, too. It's not like they're going to be surprised by the slot T. Both teams run it.
Argyle whipped Melissa tonight, Corbett, which gives them Gilmer in a state title-like kind of matchup in the next round. Almost seems wrong for these two to meet so early.
There's no doubt about that. If you look at the way that Argyle has played with their starters in, and they haven't had their starters in much past halftime, pretty much in any game this season. But if you look at the way that their starters have played on defense, excluding what they've got there with Ian Sadler on offense, on defense, they've only allowed 27 points in the first half all season in all their games. If you look at what Gilmer's done in the playoffs, they've outscored opponents 100-0 in their 2 playoff wins. It's going to be certainly one of the marquee matchups. Maybe Manville-Katy. There'll be other games that will be as big, but I certainly think that Gilmer-Argyle game will catch a lot of eyeballs.
Thanks for the knowledge, buddy. Check out Corbett Smith and the kicker, David Newberry, as we simulcast their radio show on 1310 The Ticket and on Fox Sports Southwest leading up to Scoreboard Live. Let's take a break. Coming up next, it's off to the Alamo City, where we already saw Smithson Valley upset. Could there be more? Plus, we'll check out a big one in the capital city between Leander Rouse and Hayes.
In Region 4, there's a final score in the greater Austin area after Hayes and Rouse got together at the Palace on Palmer early on for those Rouse Raiders. Remember, they went to the Final Four last year, only their second varsity season. They score first, Andre Alger, the 8-yard touchdown run. Later, Billy Ray McCrary on the quarterback keeper, 36 yards down to the 6, and then McCrary finishes the march on the first play of the second quarter from 2 yards out. Rouse on top, 14-3. Later, pressure, and Patrick yielding the tip drill pick. Rouse, out of that tough District 25-4A, wins again, and with the win, the Raiders move on to the round of 16 to take on the winner of Harlandale and Rio Grande City.
Wow, that'll be interesting. Defending state champ Denton Geyer was in a tight one early with Waco High, but then they blew him out tonight. Geyer moves on thanks to their great running game, 306 yards on the ground. DJ Breedlove finding love with 150 yards in that one as they move on. So Geyer will play the winner of Chapin and Amarillo in the regional round, and that game is going to be played on Saturday. But getting back to Denton Geyer, they're an interesting team. You could probably make the argument best two-loss team in the state. When they went to the state title last year, they lost games early. Didn't matter. This is when they turn it on.
Right, and it happened early, and of course, remember, there's also a forfeited game in the process as well. Didn't really phase them earlier, and nothing really phases Geyer right now. The Wildcats have been on a roll, and nobody's really been close to them throughout the course of the rest of district play and now into the postseason. So it's reasonable to expect they're going to be very, very difficult to take out in 4A Division I.
Also in 4A, in the bigger division, Aledo rolled tonight, 75-14 over Fort Worth Boswell. Aledo kicker Chance Navarez set the all-time Texas single-season mark for most extra points. How about that? Now, he gets in a lot of opportunities with this team to kick them, but you still got to hit them.
Right. You have to make sure you're making the kicks, but certainly he's making the most of the opportunities. Aledo's been doing that all season long, and that's why they've been sitting in that #1 spot throughout the course of the season.
And they look unbeatable. I mean, they look like another team that we're going to see at AT&T Stadium.
I think that's pretty logical.
Coming up next, unbelievable. We're at the halfway point of the show, and the night's best games haven't even been talked about. We're saving them. White House in the house, Poteet and San Antonio Johnson, all in action. Highlights, upsets, and more as we continue on Scoreboard Live.
Avenders.com.
The Wrangler Road to the Championship starts here, and there's no better team covering high school football than Fox Sports Southwest. You know that. We're here for every step of the way until the new state champions are crowned. It's all part of the Wrangler Road to the Championship on Fox Sports Southwest as we broadcast all of the classification title games from 6-man all the way up to Class 5A. And my man Craig Way is going to do every single classification. You're crazy.
Well, they're all trying to get there, so you owe it to them to give you your best effort. And that includes 3A Division II, where we swing down to the Brazos Valley region. You have cold night at Tigerland Stadium there in College Station. Rockdale battling center, and 7-0 lead for Rockdale. Elijah Brooks makes it 14-0. The bounce outside and in from 5 yards out, still in the first quarter. Rockdale finds the end zone again. Again, it's Brooks from 6 yards out, 20-0 Tigers. Center scores a pair of touchdowns to make things interesting, but Brooks will end the Rough Riders' momentum. He scores from 29 yards out, and Rockdale advances. But yeah, that's the final, 75-28.
In East Texas, a heavyweight matchup between White House and Sulphur Springs. Seems wrong that they meet this early. Patrick Mahomes, and he'll get it to Jake Parker. Moments later, Parker would make the TD catch, and that would make it 7-0. White House is in the house for another romp. These guys score and score often. Trey Samples, nice run. White House didn't score on that drive, but later on, it only took one play. Jake Parker scores on the long pass, 14-7, and then Ryan Cheatham is cheating them with another score, 21-7, and they go on to win and advance 38-14. White House is in the regionals house, and they will play the winner of Mesquite Poteet and Woodrow Wilson. Let's go to AT&T Stadium in Arlington for that one. What a job these guys have done. Jalen Smith with a 15-yard touchdown run, and then Lane Novy to Walter Dawn Jr. for the 62-yard hookup. They look like they got him contained, but he's just going to run away from everybody. It's a 62-yard touchdown pass, and they are in business with the lead. And then Ryan Tremaine to the air over the outstretched arms of the defender, and it is found into the hands by Sammy Griffin. Mesquite Poteet wins it 42-7, and you really got to commemorate these guys as they advance to play White House. So Poteet against White House, that is going to be fireworks. And what a job the Poteet head coach Cody Groves has done moving over from defensive coordinator in his first year as head coach. Poteet hasn't missed a beat. They've won 40 games in 40 years, Craig's, and 4 years that is, and will meet these guys in the regional round. I mean, it's really remarkable what they've been able to do.
Yeah, the teams that have finally knocked them out have been outstanding teams, like Aledo winning a state championship, and they go up against another great team in White House. And, of course, the Wildcats facing another tough team coming off the win over Sulphur Springs, taking on Mesquite Poteet. All right, down to the San Antonio area we go. And how about Cinderella Johnson taking on a Brandeis squad that, like steel, hasn't lost since its opening game on offense. Brandeis grinding it out until Tommy Woods breaks it open from 41 yards out. Game is tied at 14 going into the fourth quarter and then into overtime. Brandeis couldn't score, but Darian McElhannon could. 17-yard touchdown run puts the Jags into the next round, 23-17. Johnson, the winner over Brandeis. And with the win, they move on to take on Laredo Alexander. The Bulldogs advancing into the next round as they knocked off Brownsville Rivera 23-17. You know, no matter where we looked at the action all around the state of Texas tonight, Rick, we saw one common denominator: cold, miserable, wet, rainy conditions. And yet it still didn't stop these teams from going about what they had to do.
Yeah.
And we saw some really exciting action, even in the most miserable of conditions tonight.
How about Lady Bird? Lady Bird takes out Smithson Valley, who we thought could contend with the Katy down the line. Then they win another one here against Brandeis. They got Cibolo Steel kind of lurking there. They couldn't possibly beat those guys, too, could they?
Hey, anything's possible at this level of the playoffs when you take out a team like Smithson Valley, then knocking out Brandeis. Put it this way. They know at Steel what is possible if you're not ready to go, and I think the same holds true with a lot of other favored teams going into their week-by-week matchups. You got to be ready to go.
Do you think teams had to play differently tonight because of the weather conditions, just the overall passing game and having to rely on the run game?
Well, most of the highlights we've seen tonight have been schools that have been able to run the football effectively. Now, it was impressive to see a school like Katy who could run, pass, return punts, all of that sort of stuff. But for the most part, the teams that were able to run the football and stop the run, those old tenets of football, would have the best shot to advance.
The mighty Katy Tigers can pretty much do anything they want to do. Let's take a break. When we come back, we go way down south and head out west. Plus, the Fox Sports Southwest girls, Kami and Liddy, will tell us what's happening in social media tonight. They turned into meteorologists tonight. It was crazy.
State Farm.
Down along the Coastal Bend region, Cameron Yo would have to brave the road trip and the rain, taking on Aransas pass, and early on for the Panthers. Victor Gonzalez to Kiki Hill, 65-yard touchdown right. Nevertheless, here comes Yo. Jason Capriva knows what he's doing on the keeper for the 2-yard touchdown run, and then it's Capriva again. On the keeper, he scores from inside the 5-yard line. Capriva will let it fly this time. 45 yards to Justin Pratt for the touchdown. The Yo men move on to the round of 16 with a 36-18 win over Aransas Pesa. And looky there, Cameron Yo is going to take on Troy, the Trojans, another Super Centex squad.
It was funny. I remember during the regular season when they went down to Lago Vista, who was upsetting all kinds of people this year. You said, don't worry, it'll be yeoman's work come playoff time, and we're seeing that right now.
You know, you make a very good point, Rick, because what happened was when Yo got taken out by a good Lago Vista team, they kind of became a forgotten squad. And, you know, with teams like East Bernard and some of the other outstanding teams, they kind of sank down to the bottom of the poll and people forgot about it. They're still there. They're still there. They're still in 2AD1, and they're still going to be difficult to deal with all the way through the rest of the postseason.
Those guys are so strong, so big, and so talented. Let's find out what's shaking in social media with our two trendsetters, Kami and Lydia, the Fox Sports Southwest girls. Take it away.
Thanks, Rick. We've had another exciting night here on Football Friday with a second round of playoffs. Now, tonight was a little bit chillier than most nights. We've had some games, obviously, you guys know, delayed, but we've had social media continue to flood in, and we've got a lot of great stuff. So go ahead and start us off.
Flood in. You see what she did there? Our first picture is from the old coach. Allen Eagle Band performing at halftime area playoff at the historic Cotton Bowl. You know, the Allen Band is one of the largest bands in the country. They have over 700 members in their band. That's crazy to think about. That is bigger than my high school.
That is serious. That's a serious formation right there.
That's pretty amazing.
That only happens on playoffs. I don't know.
Well, even more amazing, Allen won 42-14 against Mesquite Horn.
Not surprised. Allen is killing it this year. Okay, our second photo, talking about the weather here, sent in by Lamar Football. An icy field and a foggy press box to start the second half in Abilene. Our first photo of the night from earlier show was a snowy football, and this is from that game. Can you imagine? I can't believe it's been snowing.
I cannot believe it is 28 degrees in Texas in November.
Well, they Abilene Cooper pulled off the win 45-24. Sorry about that, Lamar.
Our next photo is from Susie Redis. The Bremen Tigers area champs. Congratulations, Bremen beat Detroit High School tonight. They won huge, 48-6.
That's pretty big. Well, like I said, we've had a great night here on Football Friday, and next week we are looking forward to another round of playoffs. So stay tuned and check out foxsportssouthwest.com/footballfriday. Use that hashtag TXHSFB, and maybe your photo will show up on the show next week.
Thanks, girls. Love the Bremen Tigers. Up next, we talk 1A, number 1 in action. Out in the Panhandle, we'll show you highlights and much more on High School Scoreboard Live.
High School Scoreboard Live is brought to you by the new Wrangler Premium Performance Advanced Comfort Jeans, available at Cavender's and Cavenders.com.
It was cold in the Panhandle, but Booker's Kiowas in trouble early. The punt goes right out the back of a defender into the end zone. Rawls can't get it. It's a safety, and it's 2-0. After that, however, it's Caleb Reese, 33-yard touchdown run, and Rawls is up by a score of 10-0. This, even in the cold weather, would be a shootout. The Kiowas come back as Hunter Lyle to Jared Reagan, the short touchdown, and Booker advances 40-38 over those Rabbits of Rawls.
You got to be careful where you park your trucks on the field there. You know, be easy. Hey, looking at 1A, how about Wellington? I mean, you've talked about those guys. You think the Skyrockets got enough to get to Cowboy Stadium?
There's a reason this team is number 1 in the state. It's because of speed that they have, and sometimes speed that you don't see in as large an abundance as they have at the smaller classification. Sure, there are plenty of outstanding teams with a lot of speed. Pineland, West Sabine, way out in East Texas is one to watch. They won big tonight in 1A D2, and there's going to be some other teams to watch as well. I think Wellington is the team to beat in 1A Division II. 1A D1 is kind of a grab bag right now. There's several great teams there that are all in that Division I bracket.
Let's go back to Class 3A and check in on Waco Connolly taking on Fairfield in Midlothian. We picked this one up in the second quarter. Man, was it miserable weather there. 42-6 Eagles. Jacob Gallegos keeps it and takes it to the Cadets' 19-yard line. That would set up Larry Rose, and you know every rose has a thorn. 19-yard touchdown run. Fairfield running and throwing. They're up 48-6. Then it's Rose again in the fog. Takes the ball and gets to the outside. He'll go 33 yards here, 55-6 Fairfield. Rose with 207 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns in the game. Fairfield wins big.
3A action in far north central Texas is Bonham, those Purple Warriors, taking on the Gainesville Leopards, playing in Little Elm. Gainesville backed up, but not a problem for 2-time district champs. Adam Berryman finds all 91 yards to the end zone. Leopards out in front 7-0. In the second quarter, here come the Warriors. It's Jacob Kemp beating the defenders to the outside. In for the touchdown. Extra point was blocked. Warriors still down a point. 7-6 later. Berryman on the ball again. Takes a couple of Warriors with him, dragging him into the end zone. It was 14-6, and Gainesville wins a slugfest with Bonham, 36-28.
Let's check on Henrietta and Abilene Cooper going at it. We pick it up in the first quarter. Flag waving there. Anything you can do to keep yourself warm. 16 yards here by DeMarcus Robinson. D-Rob. He'll make it 6-0. And then it's Riley Watson to Dustin Calabrese. It's a 66-yard hookup, 30-14, and they move on. So Cooper, 64-20, they will face Scurry Rosser in the next round of the playoffs.
Along the coastal bend, two old postseason rivals, Cal Allen and the Coyotes of Alice. Derek Scheibel taking it on the keeper. 46 yards on yes, how many times we have to say it tonight? It was a cold night. 38-degree chill factor there, and they score, and that was pretty quick. Austin Revels with a short touchdown run, 14-0. That one after the conversion, and then Scheibel on the keeper. In for the score was 28-0, Cal Allen. And the Cats move on. State ranked, still rolling. They win 42-0. Phil Danaher gets on Alamo Heights in the next round. The Mules, who edged out Vandegrift last night, 24-21.
Yeah, and I wanted to correct, that was Lubbock Cooper that went on to win on that one, not Abilene, because I was looking at a funky shot sheet there. But, hey, there was some records that went down. We talked about the Alito extra point mark that was set. But how about Travis Quintanilla, our old friend at Refugio? They throw out big numbers. Well, this kid is probably going to have every passing record in the state when he's done. Tonight, he passed Graham Harrell of Ennis for the all-time career touchdown mark. Pretty impressive with 168 touchdowns now. He's expected to pass Garrett Gilbert of Lake Travis for career yardage. It's 12,000 yards plus. He'll probably do that next week.
Well, eye-popping numbers there. And remember what's also waiting for Refugio down the road. East Bernard, the team that took him out last year en route to winning the state championship. In fact, the last two state champions have come from that matchup. East Bernard and Refugio as they head on that collision course.
Let's take a break. Coming up next, we got the DQ Big Game of the Week featuring two sets of twins against each other. Here's the Beezer.
Hey, we've got a great one in round two of the playoffs for our DQ Big Game of the Week. Two high-flying offenses. Crosby comes with the Walter brothers. Now, both of these guys have already committed to the Rice Owls. Running back and quarterback really do all for Crosby. But hold on just a second. Elgin also has a brother combination. The Simmons boys, these guys also put up pinball-like numbers. Now, it remains to be seen if this cold and kind of light drizzle does anything to the game, does anything to that offensive tempo, but I doubt it. These guys can score often. They score at will, but can they do it against each other? And who's going to score more? It's a great DQ Big Game of the Week, and it's coming up. Stick around.
This week's DQ Big Game of the Week is one of the most interesting matchups of the year, if not ever. Number 6 Elgin against 18th ranked Crosby. It features two sets of twins at quarterback and running back against each other. Elgin Simmons twins have accounted for nearly 4,000 total yards and 61 touchdowns, while the Crosby Walter brothers have put up 5,300 yards and 69 total touchdowns. So amongst the two families, that's over 10,000 yards and 130 TDs in one family. The survey says, let's play Family Feud at Sam Houston State with Neil Beasley.
Elgin, the sausage capital of Texas, and Hollywood Central, a number of movies filmed right here. Movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and that incredible Texas high school football movie, Varsity Blues.
I don't want your life.
That's the one. Cold temps this weekend, but the Elgin football team filling this school with plenty of warm fuzzies. Coach Wade Griffin has his boys marching in step. 11-0, number 6 in the final regular season poll. And now it's off to round 2 of the state playoffs. 133 miles to Huntsville and one of the best cat fights of the year.
Ready hit?
That's because the Crosby Cougars clawing their way to a Super Season 2.
Yeah, let's go! Down. Oh, you lie down! And if you lie down, you gonna stay down!
Second-year coach Jeffrey Orton has put these Pumas in position. 10-1 themselves. Cougs led by a pair of Owls. Twin brothers Aston and Austin Walter committed to the Rice Owls. Listen to this now, have combined for 6,100 yards. But but Elgin keeps it all in the family as well. Kyle and Colin Snell, big, athletic, and just juniors. But this band of brothers has even more family ties. Detrine and Terrell Simmons, big daddies for these cats. Detrine, 2,000 total yards this year. Terrell, how about 8,500 total career yards? Wow, it'll take a lot more than cold and rain to stop that team.
Play like your hair's on fire and have fun. All right, this is our game. We talked about it all week. We wanted it to be rainy. We wanted it to be cold. All right, we've locked the gates. It's time to go look. It's time to go look. In between those whistles, you talk with these freaking pads. You understand me? Yes, sir. You freaking talk. Be the most physical team, and we'll be practicing next week. You got it?
No,
yes,
sir.
First half, Austin Walter scored 6 touchdowns last week alone. Notches another here. Check out the speed. 74 yards. Hang on. 14-7. Crosby Cougars. But after each Simmons brother scores, we get this. Fumble. Senior J.T. Biddy recovers. And the other way for the Wildcats. Sets up Detrine Simmons. 3rd touchdown of the half. He already had 177 yards rushing. 21 unanswered points. 28-14. Elgin up. But Crosby's D comes up large too. Fumble. Keeps it from getting worse. And then this. Austin Walter does it again. He has 124 yards rushing in the first half alone. 28-21, 7-point game at the break.
Earn the right to play another week. Earn the right to get to practice on Thanksgiving next week. It don't matter who's playing, whose turn it is. The next man is up, and let's freaking get after it. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Earn the right to win another day. You got me? Here you go. Earn the right. Ready? Hey.
Second half. Star quarterback Terrell Simmons out with a bum shoulder, and Crosby's already tied it up. But Detrine looking to put Elgin back up. No! Stuffed on 4th down at the 2-yard line. How about that? But Crosby quarterback Aston Walter also out. Ankle for him, and his squad has a 4th and 1. No! Wildcats get a stuff of their own. Oh, my cow. Detrine then to Dazzles again. 44-yard run here sets up his own go-ahead score. In fact, after a Jacoby and Vincent INT, Detrine does it again. 337 yards rushing on 45 carries. It's 42-28. Crosby in code red mode. They need some magic. Back to pass. Oh, how about this? Colin Snell with the sweet pick 6. He gone. Ball game. Detrine adds his 6th touchdown of the game. 56-28 is your final. Round 3 of the playoffs for the 2nd straight year for Elgin.
Third round, baby. Let's go. Here we go.
I was really frustrated in the locker room. I couldn't stop crying. I came out and I told the guys, hey, give me one more. Just give me one more game. They said they got me, and they came out and did it.
He said adversity was going to hit us in the mouth, and we were going to have to come back from that. And, they jumped us, and they tied it 28-28, so we know we had to retaliate. We know how to keep them at bay. We know if they didn't score, they couldn't win.
I had a big feeling in me, and I was hungry for it. I wanted to get the W going to the next round, so, yeah. We were just hungry, and when we were clicking, I don't think anybody stopped us.
We knew we could get some stops and some turnovers. It was big, and, the big interception here in the end, and it really came down to who had the best backup quarterback, and ours ended up being making some plays for us.
Well, after that exciting first half, everybody knows it's defense that wins championships, and because Elgin's was so good, they're moving on to round 3 again for the 2nd year in a row. For photographer Jeff Irwin and producer Clark Rowe, I'm Neil Beasley with your DQ Big Game of the Week.
I think Beasley's cold there a little bit. He was having a little trouble with the bottom of his mouth with freezing.
Face action.
Good job. He's unbelievable. Him and Jeff Irwin and Clark Rowe out there doing a great job. I know you've talked about a lot of talk in the greater Austin area that we could possibly have an Elgin-Cedar Park matchup later on with these two schools that are so close, only 30 miles apart. But there's some big people in the way. George Ranch and Texas City.
Yeah, see, this would start really when you look at it because of Region 3 being District 17 4A. It's kind of an anomaly of the last couple of years. 17 4A basically is a greater Austin area district. And when you think of the greater Austin area, you're thinking Region 2 or Region 4. But there is District 17, which is at the apex there of Region 3. And what happened last year? Georgetown came out of that and played Leander Rouse in the Final Four in the state semifinals. And there are some folks who think maybe Elgin could get through that and face Cedar Park in the state semifinal in 4AD2, but there's a lot of work still ahead.
There'll be a quiz on this a little bit later on in the show. Back to wrap it up after this. Are you looking for a